Hi, I'm Julia Winter. Welcome to In Touch Tactile Learning for Chemistry. First, I want to put you in the shoes of a college student. You want to be a doctor. You've always wanted to be a doctor. In fact, your parents, cousins, even Aunt Mildred expects you to be a doctor. Your grades are good. Biology, chemistry, calculus, you've got this. And then you hit organic chemistry. It's like a foreign language. It makes no sense. And now your dreams and your family's dreams are starting to go poof. This scenario repeats itself over and over again. At Startup Weekend, EDU in Minneapolis last May, with just 2 tweets, we reached out to hear the stories of this tough class. Organic chemistry affects lives. It's this critical piece needed to move into careers in science and medicine. Yet the fail rate for this class is between 40 and 50%. Career plans derail, confidence declines, and the pieces fall apart. We hear students say that organic chemistry feels like a foreign language. Well, what's the best way to learn a foreign language? In an immersive environment where native speakers correct you as you go. Well, where do most college students learn organic chemistry? In classrooms that look like this. Now, this is a beautiful college lecture hall, but it's really difficult to get to that native speaker at the front of the room. I'd like to welcome you to my classroom at Detroit Country Day School in Beverly Hills, Michigan. For over 20 years, I've taught college-level organic chemistry to class sizes of just 12 to 16 students. I know why students struggle, and I've learned to help them to succeed. The key is to give immediate feedback as they're making sense of the visual spatial ideas that are at the core of organic chemistry. So how do we scale this kind of learning to students everywhere? Well, our answer is to create games, mobile puzzle games for organic chemistry. Let me show you some of ours. Our first game, called Chairs, has been released for both iOS and Android. It takes a concept that's taught at the very beginning of organic chemistry called cyclohexane. Most organic chemists think of that as a chair, and turns it into a visual pattern puzzle game. If you look at our testimonials, students and professors love the game, call it addictive and fun. Let's watch some of my students play with the game last fall in my classroom. And you also get a really good view of my classroom in some of these film clips. Right here, that's Rashab. He was one of the best players of the day. He scored 150 points, which is a really good score, especially after only a day of playing the game. Early in our release of Chairs, we used the data platform called AppSy, which allowed us to understand how players interacted with our game. This first player from Lake Orion, Michigan, uses what we call the spin method. You don't need to know any organic chemistry to play the game. And this player just spins the little bonds until they turn from red to green, and then he or she knows that he or she is in the right place. Now, this next player in Amsterdam took the time to go through our tutorial. I have a sneaking idea that this player actually understands some organic chemistry because there's very little red as he interacts with the game. Though occasionally you'll see a spin. Whoop, there it is right there. Now, as a player progresses through the game, the number of bonds increases and the color changes. That's level 3. So the next player that we'll see is in Nova Scotia. We had a core of players in Nova Scotia play this game for hours. This player, oh, by the way, I increased the speed 4 times. This player is not going through chairs quite this fast. So it's fun, but does it teach anything? Well, that's what I set out to show last fall. I took my 45 students at Organic Chemistry. They're in 3 different classes, and I taught this concept the traditional way, which I thought has been very successful over the years. And then I divided my students up into two parts. Half of the students could take the game home and play it at home for homework, and half of the students didn't have access to the game at all. They then came into my classroom the next day and took a 4-point drawing quiz. Those who had played the game, even for as little as 5 minutes, were far more likely to score 3 and 4 out of 4 on the quiz than those who had not played the game. I then allowed my students to play chairs throughout the class period, and then they took a different drawing quiz. At the end of the period, their scores were even higher. In fact, over 90% of the students increased or scored perfect on the quiz. Okay, so chairs is fun and it teaches the concept, but it's still just this little piece of organic chemistry. The main idea in organic chemistry is called mechanisms. I've always thought of this as the heart of organic chemistry. Just about every professor uses mechanisms in explaining reactions. In fact, studies have shown that if students understand mechanisms, they are 10 times more likely to succeed in the class. What's a mechanism? Well, let me show you one. So right here, I'm drawing reaction going to products. That's organic chemistry. But the mechanism is what happens underneath. Those little arrows show every bond-making and bond-breaking event. This back of the napkin kind of tool actually transforms organic chemistry from just memorization into true intuitive problem solving. Those little arrows also lend themselves to a touch screen. So our big game, the game we call Cyclo 6, is the mechanism game, and it spans the entire curriculum into graduate levels. If you look at this picture, or one of the puzzles of organic chemistry, you have to look carefully, but these are H's, or hydrogens. Each one of those hydrogens has a different pKa, or acidity level. We'll be able to program a different bond feel into those hydrogens. And so students will have a whole new level of learning. Even the most skeptical professors, when I describe this tactile learning for chemistry, become enamored with our game concepts. This next slide shows an animation as a player moves through a Cyclo 6 puzzle. We'll be building an analytic back end into this game, so we'll be watching students learn one of the toughest subjects in college. That information will help us design other puzzles. And that's not all for organic chemistry. Our third game is called Kairos. It's a 3-dimensional multiplayer interactive game that we'll develop after we finish Cyclo 6. So our game suite right now consists of chairs. We'll be adding some interactive components and releasing that this summer. Cyclo 6 will be getting into select college classrooms for beta testing in the fall, and then we'll follow that up with Kairos. So, in conclusion, our method works. We have made the theoretical touchable. A tactile interface enhances intuition, but intuition comes from making mistakes. And the best part is, games make mistakes fun. So the Alchemie games will help students succeed. Thank you very much.